G'day members, and welcome to our early edition coverage for the Caulfield Guineas Day tomorrow at Caulfield. Sorry, I'm a bit late. I've been out this afternoon, and being overseas with daylight savings, it's almost 6 p.m. here, and obviously that's 9 now. So we'll get into it. Look, race one, pretty much, they're all first starters. There's obviously everyone's got a few tips about their own horses that they own and whatnot, and the information comes through. And, you know, a lot of the people think their horses will win, and that's fair enough. So I'll just get rid of that, actually. That's based off of the jockey and trainers. So I'll get rid of that. So we'll just pass in race one. Look, on to race two, and again, it's, you know, we've got Lankan Rupee around $1.25, and that's probably rock bottom for him, but he's about that. Look, I think at this stage, unless he got right out to $1.50 or something, it's certainly not a race that we'd really entertain getting involved with. You know, he looks to clearly be a lot better than these. He's got lengths on these at his best, and unlike a couple of times in his last couple of campaigns where he has had a few issues here and there, he does look to be going pretty well. So I would think that he'll be winning. On to the third, and I found this race quite difficult. It's a race I have to do a little bit more work with. It just, it's just a bit of a messy race, and the way we sort of do things, generally things correlate with, you know, the class and the speed and whatnot, but from time to time they don't, and when they don't, it's generally not a good sign. So I think that I think we'll just pass on this race, and well, we'll see what happens. I mean, there's always an if or a but at this stage, I think that you know, it's probably a good race to avoid. On to the next race. I think this is a pretty good race for us, guys. I think that the bowler is going. He's come back pretty well. He's sort of around the mark. I was playing around before with, I sort of get him anywhere from 260 to 310, and I can sleep well at night with that. So, you know, I think that if he'd really had a real big run already this campaign, he'd be a lot shorter again. The fact is, the horse has had two pretty good runs at 1200, and the market, we're all expecting him to bounce back to what he's been able to do in the past over 1400. So he hasn't done it yet this campaign, but he's expected to do it. So there is a subtle difference, hence why, you know, he's probably going to end up not being too bad of a price tomorrow. And I thought Tristram Sun was the danger. Look, he gets in pretty well. As you know, we're not, you know, huge on the weights, but this horse gets in really well. He's the 4th ranked horse on class. He's got the minimum weight. He's got the equal best speed figure. And, you know, the problem he's got is the trainer, who can be hard to catch at times. He can certainly train well, and then his horses just sort of drop off. So, you know, but the fact, if we bracket them together, the bowler and Tristram Sun, I think it looks a really good race. You could back both, or back and save, or play some exotics through the race. There's a host of different options that you could do. And Amavatio's, you know, obviously a nice horse, but you know, he's sort of, I'm just not sure this is his race. Pago Rock looks busted. Good value's got, I believe, the concussion plates on. Yeah, concussion plates again. That's a negative. Richie's Vibe, you know, he he hit the line all right last start. He's probably not a bad chance at odds. And, Streets Away is nor there. Machir sort of hasn't come back, and Eximus is first up. He can run well, and he's not out of it, as you can see. Such is the spread from 3 to 18. But really, the top two look like they'll be a main focus for us here. On to the Herbert Power, and it's a really good race. I just really struggled to get Bohemian Lily anywhere near the market. She doesn't have the figures yet. She's a young horse. That doesn't mean that the fact that she doesn't have the figures that she won't produce them. Obviously, the more runs you have, the more opportunities you have to stamp yourself. But at this stage, she has been unable to stamp herself. Obviously, if we look back at her run 2 starts ago, where she was beaten a couple of lengths by a preferment, that puts her hard in the race. But she doesn't have the figures, and then she came out and was beaten by a very handy type in Amelie Star for Moody up in Sydney. And just the interesting thing with that is she didn't beat Raining by far. She sort of had a length and a half on Raining, and we know a fair bit about Raining. I mean, he came down to to Melbourne not so long ago, and he was contesting those 2,500 metre races at the end of winter, and he was, sort of competitive with, Sir Mako and Crafty Cruiser and Kareeming, and they're certainly a long way off of, the top notch. So we've got a form line through Raining that's not very good, and we've got a form line through Preferment. So she could come out and run really well. It wouldn't shock me, but I can't have her in my market. Amrella's on the quick backup. I think it's looks pretty well placed here. He obviously gets Bowman on board. Bowman's had good success with the stable in the past. It was a good run in the Turnbull. He was just cluttered up for room and sort of couldn't get out. He was only in the end beaten less than 2 lengths, and he could have easily finished closer. And prior to that, he rated through the roof at Morphettville over 1,800. He produced a very powerful speed figure on that occasion. So I think that he's the way to go, and certainly I think there's a bit of value around Sartorius and Prince of Penzance. Bondiga is another one that, he hit the line well last start, and we know at his absolute best he hit the line hard with Preferment in the Derby. So he can tie in well. If they go hard, he might just be a little bit short half a run, but he's certainly got the classy horse. But I think Amrella is the one to beat with Huey on board. Good value around Sartorius and Prince of Penzance. Bondiga is going well, and Bohemian Lily, she can, if she beats us tomorrow, so be it. But I think this is a pretty good betting race. On to the 8th, and I haven't worked in any penalties or anything like that with this race yet. The reality is on exposed figures, I haven't got Faulkner at his absolute peak. He'll sort of get that figure once he gets to the Cox Plate. And we've sort of got Kermadec with what he's done. So we're sort of in a position here where, if we build in expected, improvement with Kermadec, we're going to get him shorter. And if we, got Faulkner closer to his peak, we're going to get him shorter. So look, just whether, 280 or 270 for Kermadec against this field it could be right, but could I go into the race and take that price? From the figures I'm looking at, no, but certainly it wouldn't shock me at all to see the horse come out and run well. Look, I think Happy Trails is going really well. He was bottled up for a run, and he hasn't been a horse that's rated very well for me all spring, but he rates really well in this race. It's pretty hard to fault the horse, and you track him back. He's never far away from Faulkner, so $4 versus 14 is probably a bit too big. And I'm just sort of looking now, and Kermadec's he looks to be drifting out a little bit, so he's sort of in the threes. So I'd expect that Kermadec could probably continue to drift out. I'd expect that Faulkner will probably hold his own around $4 or maybe in the high threes. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Criterion and Happy Trails. Happy Trails he really is the horse that I think he's pretty big overs here, and he can tend to be a bit of a forgotten horse, but I think that I think he's going to go quite well. On to the 7th, and this is the 2-rack. And look, I've got Lucky Hustler on top here. As I've touched on before, you know, when we get into these big group ones with the trainer ratings, there's not a lot between a lot of the good trainers. So, you know, we're probably looking at less than, you know, half a length over the lot of them. So when we're in the other types of races, you do get a bigger spread across the value that creates the ranking, but the ranking and values are very condensed when all the good trainers land in the same race. So I wouldn't be paying too much attention to them here in this race. Look, you know, Lucky Hustler was all over the back of him last start. He clearly should have finished a lot closer and maybe even won if he got out. He's certainly highly likely that he's going to trim right up and present a lot better for this race tomorrow. And, you know, we just sort of, you know, if we have a look at a run of his a couple of campaigns back where he just peaked big time and smashed under the Louvre. And that's sort of where that's the level I've got him at. And even if we go back to his run in the Emirates, you know, he finished ahead of Contributor, and, you know, it was a huge run that day. He rated through the roof. It was a really strong affair on the clock, and Hucklebuck won that Emirates. And, you know, he beat the Cleaner, he beat Hooked, Escardo, Smoke and Joey, Contributor. So some of those aren't big names, but they have come out and rated really highly. And, you know, I guess when we're going back and trying to, you know, find a figure for a horse, they're the grand final figures we're looking for. And, you know, on that occasion, he just had a very, very high figure. So he's got that figure. Disposition, looking for the mile. I think he maps up pretty well. He's going to be right in the finish. Stratum Star's going to be, you know, running really well. He's a very hard horse to fault. Abide With Me was a very big run last start. It was a really good run first up in a strong race. Set Square came out and ran second or third in the Turnbull. So they've got over that hard run, and, you know, if it gets a little bit of cover and can be charging at the line, it's right in it. And we're out to some other ones. But I really would be, you know, surprised if the winner didn't come from the top 4. The Query Runner, and I'll just highlight it, it's Noble Protector. I mean, what do we do with this horse? She was very poor first up, and, you know, if we rated her to her best figures from last prep, you know, she'd be right at the top of the market. But, you know, the reality is she was just very poor first up. So how forgiving you want to be of her, I guess, dictates where she ends up in your market and what you want to do with her. But, yeah, we'll see. But I'm probably going to work around her tomorrow. But I think Lucky Hustler's the way to go here, and spec a few others with small savers or a couple of value ones. On to race 8, and this is a difficult race. I've looked at this race a few times. Look, the reality is, I mean, Miss Gunpowder, she really didn't do a great deal wrong last start, and half the field's the same, and, you know, she she granted she had a couple of favours in the run, but she still produced a good finish, and I think that no matter what way we look at the race, she's going to be right in the finish somewhere. Bardawea, she's getting deep into her prep, which is the little concern. Her run last week at Flemington was fantastic, really strong late, big closing sectionals, and it's quite difficult to really poke a hole in her. I guess she's got a tricky gait, and whether you want to be charging into Craig Newell in these types of races is a little bit of a query. And then we've got Pasadena Girl, who we know is a Group 1 winner, and she's got Huey Bowman on, and certainly we'd expect that she's really going to be working towards a big peak here. And if we just sort of analyse the sectional times from that run last start, she certainly had the strongest last 400 of the race, and I think that and last 200. So she's probably the one that I'll probably look at elevating in my figures. Stay With Me. Look, she was wide again, so she's another one. We can sort of go through every runner here, and there's just a little what if on all these runners. And then we've got, a runner like Take Pride, who just rated through the roof at Moonee Valley. It was a huge win. Certainly aided, by the way the track was at the Valley. But it was just a huge run. And we sort of just to try and get a better line through Take Pride, we look back to the 21st of February last year, and she did run into Pasadena Girl, Stay With Me in Jamaica, and ran third, beaten a length by Pasadena Girl, and wasn't that far off a Stay With Me. So, look, I think it's been a real big improver, and its last start sort of showed that. It just has to. There's no doubt if it was going from 1200 to 1400, it'd be almost favourite, I'd say. But out to the mile, there's a few little queries, and certainly the fact that it was aided last start by the track. But it's probably the best at odds with Super Cash. On to the Guineas for the boys, and I've thought long and hard about this race, and I think the reality is, it's all about press statement here. It's figures tower over the rest. If it didn't have the mishap in the Golden Rose, it'd have a second there to Exosphere in that really strong rating race. And there's no doubt now, just trickling through with the figures down from Sydney, and the way that Exosphere is going is certainly on my end. He's the best horse in Australia at the moment, and that's of any horse. And the fact that this horse Press Statement was able to run second to it first up, and should have ran second to it in the Golden Rose, and then he came out and just won really easy last start. Yeah, he's just got that much class on the rest of this field that it's not funny. So the good news is Waller and Bowman won't have an outlandish plan, that they're probably just going to let it all unfold and just keep the horse out of trouble. And I think that, we just have to, I think the bet here, guys, is it's the right horse, it's the right trainer. The barrier is not ideal, but, we just have to put our faith in Huey Bowman. And the reality is there's probably not many more that you'd want to put your faith in. So pretty confident here that the only thing that'll beat Press Statement is the gate, but pretty confident we've got the right guy to negate it. So happy to back Press Statement here. Of the rest, as I touched in the newsletter, there's half a dozen. Ready for Victory could be the one that just gets the really good run and a good improver with the blinkers on. And the other one was Shards. Shard. So he ran second last start to Press Statement. So yeah, we'll sort of see what happens there. We've got a bit of work to do on the race. But as far as the top runner goes, their press statement, I think that's about where I'll be, around that 2:30 mark. And then on to the last. And yeah, look, it's an interesting race. I think that just on the New Zealand runner, obviously, it's a Group 1 winner over there in the New Zealand. That Group 1 sprint over there, they have the railway, so it won that. And it's not a bad sort of race. And this definitely isn't a Group 1. I think that, look, Politeness was really good first up. She's going to have to do it again from the back. And we've got Whale, who was held up for the whole straight and really looked to be jogging. So the little query is, when they're held up like that they're not tested. So you can only sort of guess where they should have finished. But, with the market support and whatnot, it's highly likely that this horse is going to measure right up. So I think that really it's out of Politeness and Whale, this race, and maybe the New Zealand horse, and we'll wait for the speed profiles to come through to sort of see where she goes. Look, Exclusive Lass won really well at Moonee Valley. She was aided by the bias on that occasion. Look, she sort of was up against Whale last prep and was within about 4 lengths, and I wouldn't expect that she'd be able to turn the table. So she has been backed early in the week. There's been a little bit of money around for her, I think. And not really. Sorry, guys. I saw she was $9. I thought I saw her 14. 14 was on Betfair. So yeah, she's probably going to be a drifter from her fixed price. And I really do think that it's probably just a race in 2 or maybe 3. So probably another race that we mightn't be able to get a big margin on, but we'll probably be able to play it there and get a result. So that concludes our look. All the best. Sorry for the delay, and we'll see you tomorrow. So thank you.